Womp womp womp.
Hello, and welcome to my review of The Detail. So The Detail is a point-and-click, story-driven, action-adventure, puzzle-solving game. Very much modelling itself along the lines of games like The Walking Dead, all the Telltale games. In The Detail, you play as a veteran detective in some unnamed American city on the hunt for the perpetrators of a brutal gangland murder. Around you are your colleagues and a connection of gang members, and basically you'll play as one or two different characters in this story and try to get to the bottom of this murder. And it's set itself up as a kind of a self-proclaimed gritty cop drama with a branching storyline and supposed moral and ethical challenges. And what I'm about to do is propose my own challenge to that very idea. I did not enjoy The Detail. And I mean, I really did not enjoy The Detail, which was surprising to me because usually I'm quite trusting of Steam reviews. And the average review on Steam of The Detail seems to be very, very positive. And I love point-and-click storytelling games. I love games where you can kind of feel like you're creating your own story and developing your own character. I love those. I love the Telltale games. I love some of the older, more classic point-and-click storytelling games. So I was really excited for this. And oh geez, it's rubbish. You can tell it's trying to kind of emulate those larger, more successful story games by trying to create a really, meaningful and deep story with interesting characters and, well-developed themes. But everything's just so boring and cringeworthy. It's constantly trying to ram it down your throat that this is a story with consequence, and the characters have deep and meaningful thoughts about their own existence and what they're doing with their lives, and they constantly ram it down your throat in a way that just doesn't fit with the characters themselves. I mean, you've got a gritty veteran cop. Right, let's start there. The story itself is not original. There is nothing original when you're starting with a story about a murder and a gritty cop who's a bit past it, a bit jaded with the job, and he doesn't really care, and he's just... I mean, you've lost me already. I've seen that hundreds and hundreds of times now. Not just in games on TV, it's everywhere. That story in that setting has been done to death. And when you're coming off the back of a game like The Wolf Among Us, say, which takes that kind of setting but puts a really different and interesting twist on it, and does it really well, this has to pull some serious punches if it's going to do anything to shock or interest me at all. And it doesn't. As I've said, the dialogue is cheesy, it doesn't fit the characters at all. Nothing about the storyline or the plot has intrigued me or led me to want to carry on playing this game. And it's seriously important in one of these games to actually feel connected to the characters, to feel some kind of, empathy with them, to feel like they're more than, just a selection of pixels dragging you through an experience. But it just doesn't do it for me. I mean, the game itself, each episode's only an hour long, and an hour is nowhere near long enough, especially the way this game does it, to get any kind of attachment to a character, or for the characters to develop at all, especially when you consider that you are jumping between more than one character. The characters have no time to develop. Maybe if they'd made the game a little longer, they would have been able to explore the characters a little bit more, and that would have made it better, but they don't, and it just left me feeling nothing for any of these characters. So by the time you get to the end, all the characters just feel, plastic, unrealistic, cliched, and when the game is really trying to force down your throat the deep personal problems and issues that these characters are going through, and it's clearly trying to make you feel that, it's so much more painful when you don't. And that is a big problem for me, especially in a game which is all about story. The actual gameplay is, well, there's not that much gameplay to really speak of. It's a point-and-click adventure, so you do a lot of clicking and pointing, but none of it feels like it really has any purpose. This is how it will go. You will arrive in a scene, you will hover your mouse over everything in the scene, click on everything it seems you are able to click on, and move on. The puzzle solving in this game consists of clicking on everything you can click on until you are done. And for me, that does not constitute puzzle solving. And it's a bit buggy, and so sometimes you just can't click on things when you think you should be able to click on things. Sometimes it's not always clear what your next objective is or where you need to go. The game does throw in the occasional quick time event, but the controls during those are just not intuitive in any way, shape or form. So they're confusing, they don't help you get into them at all. You end up just kind of clicking and hoping for the best. There are dialogue options as well, and the game makes big claims. You make your own choices, the choices affect the world, all of that usual gubbins, but it doesn't really feel like the choices you're making, especially in dialogue trees, are really having that big an effect. I mean, I even reached a point where I'd chosen all of the dialogue options apart from the one I didn't want to choose because that's not the direction I wanted to go with the character, and I couldn't progress in the level unless I chose that specific dialogue option. And when a game that's claiming it gives the player choice over the character and decisions and the story takes away that choice in quite a significant point in the story or the plot, that is not good. That's really bad. And at that point, I almost kind of was just like, well, I'm out of this situation. I'm not immersed in any way, shape or form. I don't care anymore. If you're not going to let me do what I want to, then I'm done. The only potential saving grace for the detail is the aesthetic, is the style of the game. It's got an interesting comic book, 2D comic kind of style, which kind of sets it apart from some of these other point-and-click games, but not enough really, and the colour palette of this game is very dull. It's very dark. I know that's the setting, but because the rest of the game is so uninteresting and vapid, it just adds to that whole sense of drear and blandness. The only real interesting bits are where, say, the detectives are hashing out a case together, hashing out the details, and you get a little kind of comic book strip in the background which shows you a setup of what they thought was going on. That's kind of interesting, but then you're straight back to, you know, the same old dull, boring locations and the same old dull colour palette. So I, if you hadn't quite worked it out, really didn't get on with this. So it's a real shame that this game didn't hold up its end of the bargain. I was really hoping for a good story, even from quite a short little game, but it's just not good enough. With a game that's this short, it really needs to grab you straight out of the box. And if after the first couple of hours of the game, you just don't care anymore, especially when it's story driven, you're not going to carry on. You need to hook people and you need to bring them in with interesting characters and a good story. And when the gameplay and puzzle elements of the game are really off-putting as well, there's just nothing going for this game, and there's nothing that's going to keep me, at least, playing. So unfortunately for me, the detail is a dud.
Hi guys, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, remember to like, comment and subscribe. All that stuff really does help me out, and I'll hopefully see you next time on the Mews.